Becky from Kenya, greetings. Thank you, thank you. How does one, the question is, how does one identify his or her vocation? That's the question of the day, right? Yeah, that's an excellent question. So first off, a shameless plug. I've had so many people ask me this question that I repeated the exact same answer over and over again that I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book so that whenever people ask me this question, I can just hand them the book. And so you can get the book on any like online store, any online bookstores, things of this sort. A lot of Catholic bookstores carry it as well. It's called Discernment, Do's and Don'ts, a practical guide to vocational discernment. And it's written by Father George Elliot, me. So check that out. That's going to be the fullest answer. Short answer is step one, make sure that you're really striving for holiness. Our fundamental vocation, the vocation at the very root of every baptized person, is to be holy. And so if we aren't getting that first vocation right, if we aren't striving to do that first vocation, God isn't going to bother telling us that second vocation, which is, normally what's referred to as, being called the priesthood or religious life or married life or consecrated single life, whatever it may be. First and foremost, pursue holiness. Second, expose yourself to the different vocations, right? A funny thing that'll happen sometimes is somebody will come and say to me like, oh, Father, I'm pretty sure I'm called to marriage, but nothing's happened. And I'll ask them, have you gone on any dates? Do you hang out with people of the opposite sex? Is any of that happening? And they'll just say no. It's like, well, of course not. If you have no exposure to these possible vocations, then you can't really discern anything. It all ends up in your head. You have to have a practical experience, concrete experience with these different vocations so that you can begin to, in a certain sense, see what it's like and kind of put it on, like try it on. Say, oh, does this fit? Does it seem right? Is that how this works? Obviously, that doesn't mean completely, right? If you're dating, you don't need to be doing the things that you would do while you're married. And if you're just visiting a religious order or working with a religious order, don't pretend like you're religious. But that beginning experience of, how does this feel? Did the first date go well? How does that continue to grow? Or, wow, I work with these sisters and whenever I'm around them, I just feel so much more alive. Well, maybe you should spend more time with them. Maybe you should keep spending more time with them. And if you keep feeling more and more alive, if you keep seeing what is growth in holiness, then, well, maybe you should spend all of your time with them, maybe the rest of your life by entering the religious order. And so, get that practical experience. The next thing is to really make sure that you're talking to somebody. We're not good at understanding what's going on within us. And oftentimes what we actually need is we need to be required to say to someone else what's going on within us for us to first off understand what's happening within us, but then also really face what's happening within us. And even after all of that, sometimes we just need somebody to kind of point out certain things and say, yeah, but you talked about this last time, or you did this. And so finding somebody who also is striving for holiness, preferably somebody who's already in their vocation, and a person who doesn't have any vested interest in you choosing one vocation over the other, but just, really just wants what's best for you. Talk to that person and check in with them regularly, maybe once a month, and just say, hey, I'm still discerning, and this is kind of where I'm at on this, and this is where I'm at on that. And that person oftentimes can help you a lot to sort through what's going on within you. And then lastly, really, I just went blank. I had one more point. I've got nothing. little bit too tired right now. Man, oh well. Check out the book. I had one more point. It may come to me. Obviously, focus on prayer as well. Strive to be praying well. Oh, that's right. Just remember what the last one was. The absolute most important kind of litmus test of a vocation is when you take that next step in it, right? So if you take that, you go on a first date, you become a thing, you're dating, and then perhaps within the midst of dating, there's this time where, you start really seriously considering engagement, and then you actually get engaged. If at each step you see in the relationship or in the vocation, the same thing happens with a religious order. You go and you visit them or you work with them, and that goes well, and then you make a visit, you stay with them maybe for a weekend or for a week, something like that, and you work with them throughout that time, and then you actually ask to enter. That's called postulancy. You go through postulancy, and then you go to novitiate, and then you go to simple vows, and then finally you make your final vows. With each of those, there are these steps of testing, and if at each step of this relationship or of this vocation, you recognize that in that relationship or in that vocation, you're growing in holiness, that actually growth in charity is happening in and through this situation, then that's a good sign that you should take the next step forward. And if you keep taking steps forward, eventually you get to that point of that final commitment and really entering into the fullness of that vocation. And if you're still growing in holiness, take that step. That is the best test for whether or not God is actually calling you to a vocation. All right, glad that came to me. Good question, Becky.